is an exclusive presentation of high school sports on Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. This is the High School Coaches Show. Here's your host, Justin Kenny.
Welcome in, everyone, to the Week 3 edition of the High School Coaches Show. I am Justin Kenny here with John Graham producing. Here till 7 o'clock, talking area high school football as we reach the 1/3 point of the regular season following tomorrow night. And plenty of action to talk about and plenty of guests coming up in the next hour. Just a couple minutes, we'll have Brice Vance to talk about the Northeast 8 NECC. Of course, Brice does a great job for KPC News up north, and we'll break down some of the outlying counties, teams through the first 2 weeks, what we have coming up this week. Also, we'll talk to Coach Casey Kolkman, Heritage Patriots. His team takes on Woodland to kick off the ACAC slate tomorrow night. We'll talk to Coach Kolkman, of course, former Northside coach, former Bluffton coach, former defensive coordinator, Bishop DeWanger. So, Casey, always a pleasure to have on. Bottom of the hour, Doug Dinan, Carroll Chargers, will join us. His Carroll Chargers 2-0 after big wins over Snyder and Bishop Luers the first 2 weeks. They have a bigger challenge coming up tomorrow as Northside heads to Carroll to take on the Chargers. We'll talk to Coach Dinan about that matchup and how he feels his team has played through the first 2 weeks. Speaking of teams off to hot starts, the Northrop Bruins, how about it? First time they've been 2-0 in close to 15 years. They go for a 3-0 tomorrow night at Wayne. And they could be 3-0 for the first time since 1983 if victorious tomorrow. So Coach Jason Doerffler of the Northrop Bruins will join us around 6:45. Let's not waste any more time. Last year we used to have Dan Vance to kick off the show. Now we have Brice Vance to kick off the show. We've definitely traded up in the Vance department, Mr. Brice Vance. Do you agree?
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. I'm glad you brought this up because that's exactly how I was going to start off this segment with you.
We're thinking the same way, that's for sure.
Yes, for sure. We definitely upgraded here in the Vance department.
Brice, as we talked about, you cover some of the northern schools, the NECC, the Northeast 8. Through the first 2 weeks, anything that's really popped out to you?
I think for me, I think it's the school that I cover the most, and that's East Noble, and how much they have struggled offensively. They have just not looked in sync, and granted, they graduated a ton from last year's team, and we always have come to know Luke Amstutz' offenses to be high-powered and to put up a lot of points and move the ball with relative ease, and that's just not been the case for East Noble this season. They've really struggled, and it was evident against Northwood last week. They only had a few possessions where they moved the ball, and the one key possession that they did move the ball in was the final one, and picking up at least 3 first downs to seal the victory. Other than that, I mean, there's been, a lot of teams, especially in the NECC, that graduated a lot, really have struggled off, to start. West Noble, they have really struggled here early on. Garrett, struggled against New Haven a couple weeks ago. They're back in action. Carabusco struggled week 1. Just a lot of teams that have graduated have really, graduated a lot and not returned a ton of experience, but they just have gotten off to really slow starts, and that's something to be somewhat of expected, but the drop-off has been a little bit more surprising than I thought.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about the NECC. You mentioned teams like West Noble undefeated in the regular season last year, and they graduated a lot. Carabusco, I saw them week 1 against Columbia City, and you could just see the youth and inexperience on the field. And then there's East Noble, which is the complete opposite, in that they brought back almost their entire amount of production from a year ago. They're off to a 2-0 start, a big road win last week at Adams Central. Is Eastside the most complete team in the NECC at this point?
I would say so. I mean, just from a standpoint of offense and defense and having a whole bunch of playmakers, I think Laban Davis at quarterback is really, really good. He's probably maybe arguably the best quarterback in the conference. I mean, at least from my eye, and I thought he was one of the best last season. So for him to return and he's still only a junior. He still has quite a couple of years left, but he has just been fantastic for them. And then defensively, you have guys like Lane Burns, who just seems to fly all over the field and create disruption as far as interceptions and fumble recoveries. I mean, he's just all over the field, just creating havoc for Eastside. And the way that they've come out and played really well, despite turning the ball over, quite a bit in both games, and even last week against Adams Central when they, had 3 turnovers in the first half, but were still able to bounce back and have a really good win by a couple of touchdowns over a good Adams Central team. Yes, they're just a class below them, but I mean, Eastside, who we thought was going to be very young going into last year and inexperienced, has brought back a ton of experience this season, and a lot of that experience is still juniors and sophomores that were playing as sophomores and freshmen last year. So they're going to be good for this season and for a couple of seasons after this one.
Brice, looking at a team in the small school division in Central Noble, they kind of opened some eyes week 1 going to West Noble and getting a win. They were competitive last week at home against Columbia City. Mm-hmm. Can Central Noble maybe rise in the standings similar to what we saw out of West Noble a year ago? I'm not saying, 8, 9, 10 wins, but Hayden Kilgore seems to have that team, the youngest coach in Indiana high school football right now, seems to have changed the mindset and the mentality there in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you, and I think he's done a fantastic job of getting guys, that had experience last season. Yes, they were one of the teams that were very young, and they got off to a really slow start because they didn't start practice last season until, the beginning of August. And yes, with a lot of this COVID stuff, they, were in many teams around the state, and all of them didn't get started until July, but that was earlier than the year before for the Cougars. So they have a little bit more practice time with this group that got a lot of experience last season, and guys like Sawyer Yoder, Will Hoover, Chase Spencer has come on the scene and has been fantastic for them as a running threat. And then you guys have a whole bunch of guys that, gained experience on defense as well. They're getting a little bit bit by the injury bug right now. And they have a lot of injuries on the offensive and defensive lines. But if those guys can get healthy and they come back, I think this team can make a jump in the standings. And they're probably maybe the second best team right now, I think, in the NECC small school division behind Eastside.
He is Brice Vance, the Superior Vance, here on the High School Coaches Show. Brice, sports reporter for KPC News. Let's focus for a minute on that big school division and a team like Angola. Do we feel like they're going to return to form, so to speak? A lopsided win over DeKalb in week 1. They're off again this week. Won't be in action until next Friday against West Noble. But from what we've seen of Angola and then what you've heard, do we expect the Hornets to be more closer to 2018 as opposed to 2019?
Yeah, I think they're going to be close to that. I don't think they're going to be, on par with either of those two teams. Those two teams were just stacked on both sides of the ball and had really good, threats offensively and defensively and just star power all over the field. I don't think they have the star power necessarily this season, but I think they have just a good team, and I think that's going to take them a long way in the big school division, just because I think, like I mentioned, with West Noble graduating a lot and having to rebuild a little bit, Garrett, it's just not, back to where they were possibly back in 2016 when they had one of their best seasons in a long time. And then the other schools in there, I just don't know if have enough firepower like Fairfield and Lakeland. Lakeland seems to be really down this season with a new coach and Ryan O'Shea. They just had, again, they've had, their bout with people, with players being quarantined and in injuries, and it's just they're going to struggle mightily this season. So I think Angola definitely is en route to take the NECC big school division. They're definitely the favorite right now.
Brice, you mentioned at the top East Noble. Let's talk about the Northeast 8. Do you still have East Noble atop the conference in terms of firepower? Do you feel like Leo, maybe even New Haven, have a shot to knock them off that perch heading into the first week of the Northeast 8 season?
I think it's really close. Coming into the season, I thought, Leo might be just a notch better, just because of what they brought back and how they played against East Noble in that sectional championship game last season, I thought that, Leo was just going to be a notch better this season, and I think they still are. I think if you're asking me who's the top right now, I would go Leo, East Noble, then maybe, a team like you mentioned, New Haven or Norwell, who has been playing really well to start the season. It's just for me, East Noble, their defense is on par with last year's defense. I think they're just about as equally as good. They have plenty of playmakers, Cole Schupak, Jacob Bangorder. Those two linebackers are fantastic. They have plenty of players in the back end that can stop any big plays from happening. It's just their defensive line just needs to get a little bit more experience, and I think they'll be fine there. But offensively, it kind of worries me. I don't know if they get into the jam like they did last year against Huntington North, who's the team they played this week. They were down at halftime and down by 4 points well into the third quarter. I just don't know if they have the firepower offensively to, make that gap up and build leads on teams.
Yeah, it's a great point. Missing a guy like Bailey Parker, but weapons galore on that team a year ago. Brice, the team we haven't mentioned in the Northeast State, Columbia City, they're 2-0. They were convincing in both weeks 1 and 2. They started last year 4-0, ended the year 1-5. Their schedule is backloaded on the back end with New Haven, East Noble, Leo, Norwell. Can Columbia City crash the party towards the top of the Northeast State this season?
I think so. I think they can make it interesting, picking up an upset or two along the way. But like you mentioned, they did not finish off the year last year very strong, and they need to pick up a couple of those wins that they didn't get last year to kind of crash the party. I think they have the talent. I think they have the coaching with Brett Fox and Greg Bolt leading them. I think that they should be able to pick up a couple of those upsets and make those games that were, blowouts or not competitive last year amongst the top of the conference. I think those games are much closer and could come down to the very end.
Brice, where are you headed to tomorrow?
I am going to Huntington to take in East Noble and Huntington North, and like I said, the last year's game was a little bit of a surprise to me, with Huntington North coming in and having a halftime lead and really running the ball well. Bob Prescott came in his first season and shocked, I think, everybody, because the Knights came in off a huge win the week before, and so did Huntington North last year, and it's the same story this year. East Noble comes in off an emotional win that comes out right down to the wire, and so does Huntington North, coming off a big win over Jay County last week. So East Noble needs to come out and run the ball, I think, a little bit more than they have the first 2 weeks to establish the offensive and defensive lines. And I think if Huntington North does have their way in rushing the ball, they've rushed the ball pretty well here in the first couple of weeks, especially last week over Jay County, and had some success against Warsaw in week 1. If they can do that, then it could spell trouble for the Knights tomorrow night.
Yeah, a lot of people looking ahead the next 2 weeks for East Noble. Penn at home next week, at Leo the week after. But Bob Prescott's team, Huntington North, an improved squad, getting better. They always have numbers there. As you mentioned, their running game, I think last week they rushed for 500 yards against Jay County and threw for zero yards. So that's a sneaky tough matchup, and hopefully it's a good game where you're going tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I mean, that's what the case with East Noble. I thought last year when I talked to Luke Amstutz after the Huntington North game, he said, his guys maybe had an eye towards DeKalb, who they're not playing next week. As you mentioned, they have Penn in, as DeKalb is out for a couple more weeks. They were looking ahead maybe just a little bit and weren't taking Huntington North a little bit, so seriously as maybe they should have, and that's why they got off to a slow start. They ended up winning by 16 points because they had those offensive weapons of last year. They had Bailey Parker last year, and they don't have that this year, so they can't be looking ahead too far because you're right, a huge match. They had to focus on Huntington North because if they, like I mentioned earlier, if they get behind in a hole, I don't know if they have the firepower to get them out of a jam.
All right, Brice Vance, it is official. You have permanently replaced your cousin Dan Vance here at the top of the show. It didn't take much.
No,
let me tell you. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, whatever the standard is, I'm willing to reach, and I'm going to try to jump over that bar, however high it is. If it's a low bar, all I have to do is just step over it. That's all I need to do.
Yeah, I think we all know how low that bar is, but we'll keep that off the air. But thanks, Brice. Appreciate it, boss. Have fun in Huntington tomorrow night.
All right, thanks, Justin.
That was Brice Vance of KPC News joining us. Does a great job covering East Noble, the Northeast State, the NECC, some of those northern counties that don't get a lot of pub in Allen County and Fort Wayne when we talk high school football. But so thanks for Brice for joining us. We got plenty more to talk about. Casey Kolkman is going to join us on the other side of the break. We'll talk about the Heritage Patriots, the rebuilding job he has, some of the talent he has to work with, and a chance to get victory number 1 tomorrow night at Woodland. You are listening to the High School Coaches Show on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Right now, Allstate has almost as many ways to save as there are types of music. Save for being a new customer. Save more for adding DriveWise. And save even more for driving safely. Visit Allstate.com or contact your local agent to get a quote. Find out how much you can save today. Allstate. Now that should be music to your ears.
Not available in every state. New customer savings based on early signing discount. DriveWise is an optional feature. Savings vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms and conditions. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Smoothbrook, Illinois.
Dear Diary, it's me again, Colonel Sanders. Ha, you knew that. Today I introduced my brand new KFC secret recipe fries. You did it, Colonel. The perfect fry. I'm proud of you, me. Now go on and try the crispiest, tastiest KFC secret recipe fries in my new tenders meal for $5.49. I don't know why I turned my diary into a KFC commercial, but I did. Love fries. I mean Colonel Sanders. P.S. Folks can get them at the drive-thru or with contactless delivery by ordering at KFC.com. Limited time only at participating locations only. Prices may vary. Tax and substitutions extra. Delivery service and additional fees apply.
You're planning on remodeling your bathroom. You want something personal and unique, and you want only the best quality products, which is why you're planning on ordering your shower door from the custom craftsmen of City Glass. But why stop there? Why not have the same professionals custom cut the just right mirror for your bathroom as well? There's no need to settle for anything off the shelf when the City Glass craftsmen can cut and design the perfect mirror for your bathroom. Don't worry about special sizing. They can custom size your mirror just as they would your shower door. And what about a unique look? Not a problem. For example, they can frame your mirror or even cut it so that your vanity lights can fit in the mirror rather than having to mount a separate fixture above the mirror. Maybe you don't need a new mirror at all and can just have an existing one recut or refurbished. Yeah, they can do that too. So do this for yourself. When you're ready to choose a shower door from City Glass, choose a mirror as well. City Glass, quality glass products, a cut above the rest.
America's veterans are more than a source of pride. They're a source of strength. When our veterans thrive, our communities thrive. With your support, our veterans can get career and education opportunities as well as benefits they've earned.
Hi, I'm Congressman Bob Latta. Join me in thanking our nation's veterans. They've given so much. Find out how you can support veterans in our community.
This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
How do airplanes fly? What's in this box? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Learn how to store your gun securely and make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Breaking Fort Wayne sports news sent directly to your phone. And win exclusive contests from 1380 The Fan. Just text the word FAN to 46862 and join 1380's exclusive text club today. Here's more from the High School Coaches Show on Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Welcome back to the Week 3 edition of the High School Coaches Show here on 1380 The Fan. Coming up tomorrow night, game of the week out at Wayne Stadium. It'll be the Northrop Bruins and Wayne Generals. It'll be Brett Rump and Shannon Griffith are on the call. Kickoff at 7 o'clock. Right here on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Northrop Bruins looking to go 3-0 for the first time since 1983. It's been a long time. I was 1 year old last time Northrop Bruins were 3-0. Wayne General's got plenty of talent, though. Sherwood Haydock working his magic there. Probably not there yet in terms of a consistent week in and week out contender, but a lot of talent to work with. Eben Person is good. Sean Collins is very good. So a lot of talent out at Wayne for Coach Haydock to mold. There's also a lot of talent out of Monroeville. And Casey Kolkman joins us right now, head coach of the Heritage Patriots. Coach, how are you?
Hey, Justin. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, living the dream, my friend.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, let's talk. You start the year off first with 3 straight road games. Some schedulers may not like you somehow, but tough challenges for you guys at Eastside, at Norwell. What did you learn about your squad the first 2 weeks?
Well, we learned that we have young men that are willing to fight. We came out against Eastside in the first half, and it was 21-7, and we got to halftime, and we're out of gas. So we realized the level that we wanted to play at or that we needed to play at, and then we understood that to be able to do that, we've got to be a little bit better throughout the week, and I felt like we did that against Norwell. Now it's to be able to play at that level without all the mistakes. So that's kind of where we are right now.
How is it a benefit? You finally get your guys out on the field. You can finally hit somebody else in an actual game environment. Do you find out a lot more about your team in the 2 weeks of the regular season as opposed to a month of the preseason?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, especially when you have a young team that hasn't been in, as Coach Isaac's always put it, in the fray, and when you get kids that, practice, they could look great. And it doesn't matter if it's a freshman or a senior. If the kid has not played meaningful minutes on the field against another opponent, it's just hard to gauge. And not even so much as a coach, just for that young man. And so to be out there and just play. And then, we approached it as, being thankful that we played a team like Eastside, who's coming off a great year, who's ranked, great coach, great team, great competitors. Then we go down and we play a physical team like Norwell. Not that Eastside wasn't, but Norwell's always traditionally been physical, hard-nosed football. They play in the Northeast 8, tough conference, So we've kind of approached it in that manner of, hey, we've gotten the challenges that we need so that we understand what level we have to play at to be able to compete and be able to win games. So, again, that's where we are now, and we're thankful for it.
Coach, when you look at the schedule and you get Woodland this week, then you get to play a couple games at home, but it's against South Adams and Adams Central in week 4 and 5. I talked to Coach Mike Bavard at Northside about this, and he's led the last 4 years off with Snyder, DeWanger, Carroll. He says, I learn a lot about my team, but both on the field and off the field. I find guys that are committed to the program long term as opposed to guys that just want to be around here being a winner. I mean, are you approaching, particularly this first half of the year, in the same way that, hey, I'm going to find out a lot about these kids and really who is committed to this program long term?
Well, it's one of those things where the old serenity, right? I mean, you got to focus on things you control. And when you take over a program, the schedule is not one of them. I mean, there's contracts that are signed and sealed, and you just got to play who they put in front of you. Now, down the road, maybe we'll have a little say, in who we play, but I don't see any reason to change things too much. As far as home and away, whatever. You're going to have to travel in the tournament anyways. You're going to have to win road games in the tournament anyways, so why not get used to it early? So, and as far as who we play after Woodland, all eyes on Woodland right now. We could care less about anybody else, and that's not just coach talk. We got we're too young of a team, and then, we're trying to put everything in focus. An added thing to that, Justin, is, with everything that's going on in society, and every day you feel like you hear about another high school that's lost a game, we just keep reminding our boys, hey, let's just play for this one. Because it's a very real thing that there might not be another one, So that's kind of made it easier, I guess, to get their attention and get their focus. Not that you'd want that to have to do it, but, all eyes on Woodland.
Coach, let's talk about some of your personnel, and I think defensively you have a couple standouts. People know about Kiel Eldridge, the junior, has some D1 offers on the table, but also a sophomore that was big for you last week, broke a school record. Rylan Whitaker, 15.5 tackles, set a program record, an inside backer, just a sophomore. So some impressive talent there on that side of the ball for you.
Well, obviously you want to invest in your seniors. That's always the case in any program. At least in my opinion, but we've also invested in these young guys because this is a process, and get them to buy into it. So we're just looking for the best players, the best talent, the best work ethic, the kids that are, doing the best in the classroom and all those things, and we're giving them a chance. So, one of the big things that changed from week 1 to week 2 was we started to get more young talent involved in Friday night's game plan. It helped us a little bit because we had some guys that weren't quite ready to play a full game, especially both ways. So that helped. But we have more, quite a few guys that saw minutes on Friday night that didn't see minutes the first Friday night. But as far as Ryland goes, I mean, that's just a kid that's just starting to figure it out. And I don't know if he's just, if it was just dumb luck, or because it certain heck wasn't coaching, because I'm the inside linebacker coach. So,
Yeah.
But he's got to, it's one of those things, kid is good, great inside linebackers that have things that they're just natural instinct. They got a good nose for the ball, and, you kind of touch up a few things and just turn them loose, and that's what he did. So, that was good. And then, obviously, when you got guys like Kiel and some of those other kids that are getting noticed other ways, and they're still coming along. Kiel's still figuring out our system and where he fits in and how he's supposed to operate, which can be tough for a kid, that's got talent. How to get that fit into a new system can be a hard challenge too. So, yeah, we're thankful for the young guys.
Yeah, just so Ryland understands, he probably would have had 20 tackles with good coaching.
You're kidding me. I mean, no doubt. I mean, I told him that. I said, I'm sorry you can only get 15, man. I mean, maybe if we switch him, maybe if I hired Justin Kinney to coach my inside linebackers.
Big mistake. Coach, you go to Woodland tomorrow night, and Woodland, talk about, almost a mirror image of you in terms of playing some tough teams out the gate. 2 road games for them at Leo, at Adams. What have you seen out of Woodland? First-year coach there, too, and Mike Smith. What do you guys need to be ready for?
Well, and that's when we went through film, and it's hard for a young man to understand that. So we put a lot of emphasis on that. Hey, Leo is a quality program. I coached against Coach Souter for a few years when I was at Bluffton, and that's a good 4A program, and they play in a tough conference. And then you go up to Adams, and I believe their head coach took South Bend, Washington, the state, maybe 8-9 years ago. That's the coach. Antoine Johnson's the coach of South Bend Adams now.
Yep.
And so, I mean, and there were some dudes on both those teams. I said, look, for a country school like us or Woodland to go play one of those schools, that's a tough order. I said, we played tough schools as well. I said, but don't be mistaken and think that, the score of Woodland's games. I mean, yeah, it was a little lopsided, but they were playing some very, very hard opponents to play. On top of that, now Woodland say, hey, we get to play somebody that's more like us. They're going to have a little confidence. Woodland's our natural rival. So we've tried to instill all those guys in our players, all those things in our players, just about being prepared for this team and, what they can do. But as far as our players go, quarterbacks, good quarterback play. Starter and backup are both quality guys. Tailback, obviously, that's the one everybody talks about. He's a quality kid, maybe one of the better players. All around, I would say. And then a little slot back that's fast. I don't do names. I just do numbers. Number 20, so.
You got time for names?
And then defensively, got a couple of dudes that can run and get to the ball. And then I know they've had a couple of guys that have been out, either quarantined or injured. So, we're just preparing that they're going to have everybody back, and they're going to have some new faces we didn't see on film. And, that's kind of how we're approaching it.
Coach, before I let you go, I wanted to ask you this. We've talked about it in the past. People say, okay, Casey Kolkman going back to his alma mater at Heritage. He rebuilt Northside. He rebuilt Bluffton. Of course, he's going to do it with Heritage. So it's not that easy. Well, we understand that. So do you have at every spot you go to coach, do you have, okay, step 1 is going to be this, step 2 this, 3 this, or is every situation unique?
Probably a little of both. I think there's definitely a plan that you have, and, once you've done it once, then you say, okay, is this going to work again? And I think there were some differences between Northside and Bluffton in terms of how you approach certain situations. Maybe it's a talent level, maybe it's a commitment level. There's a number of things you have to take into, and a lot of them don't have much to do with X's and O's, to be honest with you. It's the culture of the program that you got to really try to develop. So the biggest thing is just getting to know your guys right away. And that became a bigger challenge at Heritage because of a month into getting the job, COVID hits, and now we're shut down and we're trying to do things on Zoom, and, we're who they are. So we were just thankful to get back in July and get things going again. So, but really it's just the same old things that we've done that I think the quality programs do, places like Dwenger and Snyder and, the schools that have been successful for a long time all do very similar things. So we try to instill those into the guys, and the problem is a lot of times those things are very new to programs, And so it takes some time. It's a challenge at times, and you just got to teach the boys that there's a certain way we do things, a certain way we don't. I think the biggest thing I've learned, though, is just the way you treat young men and how we approach them. And we've just tried to, just be ultra positive, continue to encourage them, continue to teach them to focus on the love of the game. Love the game first. Love the fact that you get to play football. Don't get lost in the scoreboard. And that's not just saying that because we got beat 2 weeks in a row. I mean, when you listen to the big-time coaches talk, that's the same thing they're trying to teach their boys, whether it's big-time high school or even college guys, is fall in love with the process. Because once you can do that, once you embrace the grind, then you're able to compete and win games. But if you flip that, if you do that in reverse, then sometimes, you end up being miserable because you're always chasing the win. You're not chasing, execution or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, and that could be a painful experience.
Good stuff, Coach. All right, buddy, I'll let you go. Appreciate the time. Good luck heading to Woodburn tomorrow night.
Hey, appreciate all you guys do. Thanks, Justin.
That was Coach Casey Kolkman, Heritage Patriots, joining his team 0-2 to start the year. They head to Woodland, third straight road game tomorrow to open the season for first-year Coach Casey Kolkman with the Patriots, his alma mater. But they've had difficult challenges to start the year at Eastside, probably the most complete team in the NECC, and then at Norwell, who is undefeated and trying to make a point tomorrow night when they go to Leo to show that they're ready to compete with the big dogs in the NE8. We're going to take a break, come back. Coach Doug Dinan, Carroll Chargers will join us. We'll transition to talking some SAC football. This is the High School Coaches Show on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Shop classic, independently certified pre-owned Rolex watches for both men and women in the attractive high-end designs that make Rolex watches so striking at Peter Franklin Jewelers. Rolex, the world's most recognizable watch brand, from classic to professional Rolex models to suit any wrist. Shop Submariner, Daytona, Datejust, Yachtmaster, Batman, and more at Peter Franklin. A Rolex is always cherished, but it also transcends its material value and takes on a personal meaning. Whether it is an heirloom, a milestone of success, or a gift, a Rolex watch frequently becomes an emotional symbol that brings to life exceptional moments. Discover Rolex watches today at Peter Franklin, your independently certified pre-owned Rolex headquarters where every Rolex tells a story. Start your story today at Peter Franklin with 3 locations to serve you: Angola, New Haven, and on DuPont Road in Fort Wayne. See the entire collection of Rolex watches online at peterfranklin.com. When you want to make a statement, it simply has to be Peter Franklin.
To celebrate the return of football, DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is giving all users a no-brainer to start the season. Have you ever heard of a football team losing by 100 points? Well, for Week 1, DraftKings Sportsbook has moved the spread to Kansas City plus 101 points for all users. So, even if Kansas City loses in historic fashion by 100 points, you would still cash your bet. That's a no-brainer. Plus, DraftKings is giving away up to $100 million in prizes to all users who enter their free football survivor pool. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code WKJG to take advantage of this no-brainer of an offer. That's promo code WKJG to get in on all of the action. For a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Indiana only. Other terms and conditions and restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
Now back to the High School Coaches Show on Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Welcome back again to the Week 3 edition of the High School Coaches Show. I'm Justin Kenny. He is John Graham, producing here till 7 o'clock, talking area high school football. Thank you to Coach Casey Kolkman, Heritage Patriots, joining us before the break to talk about his team's start and the game at Woodland tomorrow. And as I said earlier, game of the week tomorrow night right here on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM. Brett Rump, Shannon Griffith live from Wayne Stadium. Northrop Bruins, Wayne Generals. Northrop looking to go 3-0 for the first time since I was 1 year old. 1983 to be exact. And the Wayne Generals have looked competitive the first couple of weeks of the season. Haven't been able to get a win yet, but Coach Sherwood Haydock definitely has that program pointed in the right direction. A big game also in the SAC coming up tomorrow evening, a battle between the 2-0 Carroll Chargers, 1-1 Northside Legends out at Carroll in Huntertown. Head coach of the Chargers is Doug Dinan, joins us right now. Coach, how are you?
I'm good, Justin. How you doing?
Oh, we're living the dream here. We're almost a third of the way.
We're enjoying a freshman game out here, a little freshman team versus Snyder, and we got fans in the stands, and so it's a good deal on Thursday night.
Yes, absolutely. We'll have some fans in attendance tomorrow night. That's got to feel good.
Absolutely.
Coach, let's talk about your first 2 weeks. At Lures, get a big win. Last week, of course, against Snyder at home. You're 2-0. How would you rate your team through the first 2 weeks of the season?
I think, it's going to sound cliched, but, there have been some very bright moments, but there's also area of improvement. I think that we can always be more physical. I think that we can always fly to the ball more. Keeping the opponent out of the end zone is always a goal, and we haven't done that yet. We're very pleased with the play, but it's week 2, and we're just looking to get better every week.
And, Coach, that offense in particular has looked very good. Jeff Becker leading the way on a very balanced offense. He's gotten a rapport with Mason Englert. Last week it was Jamison Coverstone that was stepping up for you. A little bit about your junior quarterback and the step he's taken from a sophomore.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is that, the game slowed down for Jeff a little bit. He's matured. He understands the offense more. He's able to get us into better plays at times, checking things at the line of scrimmage, and, that's always a positive. And, you become a junior and you're an upperclassman now, and you take that leadership role a little bit more serious as well. And so, with his improved play, his understanding of the game, his maturing, just as an individual, and his leadership, I think, has really developed him into the quarterback that he is right now, and we're seeing positive things.
When you look at the skill around him, and we've seen, a cadre of running backs that have been able to carry the load, particularly last week. I mentioned the receivers that have stepped up as well. I mean, is this as balanced of an offense, particularly with these skill players that you've had in a while? Because it seems like a lot of different guys can hurt you.
That's the objective. We'd like to be able to run it a little bit more. I would feel a lot more confident if we still had that blend of run and pass. But, that's our game right now. We're going to throw it around the field and have some quarterback runs, and our tailbacks are servicing us well, and the offensive line is continuing to improve each week. So balance is obviously always an objective that you're seeking for. But the biggest deal is productivity. Okay? I don't care how we score as long as we score. I don't care if we get how we get first downs as long as we get first downs. And so the main goal is productivity out of each side of the ball.
And that defense has had some great moments, too. And you mentioned some of these guys to me in the preseason. Guys like Hunter Mertz have been around, and Cade as well, guys that you expected to step up. And also, a junior safety. And Ethan's been very good for you through the first couple weeks.
Yeah, the defense, we've talked about, many of those guys that were coming back. Cade and Hunter and Tucker and Craig and to mention just a few, but there are a couple of young guys, Ethan Beaupre, Aaron Stewart playing at corner. We moved Leon Ottenweller down to a defensive end, and he'll be back with us this week after being on quarantine for, being around somebody with COVID. But, all of those things are positive. And again, the objective is to play well as a group, minimize the yardage, and get the ball back to the offense. That's the simple objective for the defense.
Coach Doug Dinan, Carroll Chargers, joining us here on the High School Coaches Show. Coach, tomorrow you get the Legends and Northside coming in. What have you seen through the first 2 weeks that you need your team to be prepared for?
Well, they're very explosive offensively. They've got a very good quarterback, and he distributes the ball well to the receivers. We've got to be good against the pass. We've got to put pressure on the quarterback, and they want to get the ball into the flat to the running backs, and let them do their thing out in space. their offensive line has been doing a nice job protecting for Deuce as well. So, we've got to put pressure on the quarterback, and we've got to defend in the secondary. But I think all of those things are things that our kids believe in and things that we can do. And so, offensively, they've got a lot of firepower. Defensively, they play hard. They really do. They fly to the ball. They've got athletes. They've got guys up front that are putting pressure on the offensive line. They've got, 3 linebackers that are playing extremely well, too. And, the secondary, led by Arian McCarter, who is a Division I guy. And, we've got to be able to move the ball. Again, we have to be productive on the offensive side.
Coach, with the abbreviated preseason that we had, did you approach the regular season with a little bit more questions about your team than you normally would? And do you feel like you have those answered, or is 2 weeks still too soon to say?
Well, I think in the off season, we knew a lot of the personnel that was returning for us on both sides of the ball, and it afforded us, when we finally got to be on the field in July, it afforded us the opportunity to develop and further develop those guys. And we felt that they already had a basis of understanding of everything, and so we kind of fast-forwarded all of their learning process to develop guys that were going to be on the field for us quickly. It also made, every practice that much more important because you were limited to only 2 per week, for those first couple phases. And so, July became very important, where we used to have June and July. Every day in July was the utmost importance, and we had to have focus on every task that was at hand.
All right, Coach, appreciate it. How's the freshman team look tonight?
The freshman team's doing good right now. We're up 25-0.
All right, Coach. Hey, appreciate it. Should be a fun one out in Huntertown tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Justin. Be well.
You too, buddy. That was Coach Doug Dinan, Carroll Chargers, joining us. His team 2-0 heading into tomorrow night's matchup with the Northside Legends. And, you look at the best quarterbacks in the area, and I think most people's lists is going to have a 1-2 of Jeff Becker and Deuce Taylor. Jeff Becker, a phenomenal dual threat guy that can get out of the pocket and create. He's got a great arm, great velocity, great accuracy. Deuce Taylor, as versatile and as squirmy of a quarterback as you're going to find anywhere in northern Indiana. He can escape pressure. He can make a guy miss. He can buy himself time. And, he has some really good wide receivers that he can hit in stride and then turn into big plays. In many ways, I look at tomorrow's game with these two quarterbacks maybe being similar to the game in 2015 between Bishop Luers and Carroll. That was Aiden Smith at quarterback for Carroll. That was Austin Mack at wide receiver for the Bishop Luers Knights. Both D1 guys, Aiden Smith at Northwestern, Austin Mack at Ohio State, and Austin, of course, trying to make it in the NFL now. But that was a score-for-score type game, 43-38 final for Carroll with the win over Luers. But that was a fun game, went up and down the field, big plays on both sides. I know neither coach, Brevard or Dinan, want to see that tomorrow. They want their defense to get some stops. But it could definitely be as exciting of a matchup as we saw in 2015. So Jeff Becker, Deuce Taylor, they face off tomorrow night at Carroll, 7 o'clock tip. We're going to take a break, come back. We'll talk to Coach Jason Doerffler, Northrop Bruins, about his team's 2-0 start. Can they go to 3-0 tomorrow night? We'll talk to Coach Doerffler about that when we come back. You're listening to the High School Coaches Show, 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
With so many roofing companies in the area, it's tough to be sure you're partnering with the right business to get the job done. Alliance Exteriors is here to make the decision easier for you. Alliance Exteriors specializes in metal roofing, shingle roofing, and more. They promise to take care of you for life. From the time a team member arrives at your door to years after your job is completed with a lifetime warranty. Looking to complete that roofing job you've been considering for months before winter hits? Call Alliance Exteriors today at 908-5465. Check out their Facebook or visit their website at allianceexteriorsIN.com to schedule your free, no-pressure estimate. All estimates come with an exclusive 10-point inspection, a $129 value for free. Plus, take advantage of $2,500 off your new metal roof for a limited time only. That's $2,500 off the last roof you'll ever put on your home. Don't forget to ask about their first responder discount. Start the process with Alliance Exteriors, your partners for life.
And these trigger anxiety and stress.
Anxiety and stress.
We know
many smokers want to quit. That's why we're offering free nicotine replacement products to help. You can get 2 weeks of patches, gum, or lozenges free while supplies last.
Hey, we understand. In times like this, people are ready to quit. And Quit Now Indiana has a better way. Say goodbye to smoking.
Goodbye to smoking.
And quit on your terms, at your pace.
Quit Now Indiana will help you break your tobacco addiction.
Call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. That's 1-800-QUIT-NOW.
You can quit your way with the tools and support you need.
No lectures.
No pressure.
Just free help.
Life is too short.
Call 1-800-QUIT-NOW today.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives with your gifts. Your heart could keep beating. Your kidneys could keep filtering. And your intestines could keep on digesting for others. And that's not all. You can improve the lives of 50 more people as an eye and tissue donor, restoring sight and health. And you're not just helping out the person receiving the transplant. You're touching whole families with your life-saving gift. Register in minutes. Just go to organdonor.gov. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Sign up today. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Here's more from the High School Coaches Show on Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Welcome back for the final time here, the Week 3 edition of the High School Coaches Show. Rolling right along. Doing well, John. We do a good show? Do you think we got a good show thus far? We're doing well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for, you would have said yeah no matter what, right? Even if it was just a train wreck?
Nah, I would say...
You'd be honest?
I would say you are at the top of your game.
And you would be lying. One of these times, John, you're going to be like, you sound like trash. This is horrible. Luckily, we have guests to carry us, for sure. Thanks to Coach Doug Dinan before the break. We talked about tomorrow's Carroll Northside game over in the northern part of the county, and Huntertown, another game of the SAC that will be closer to the south side of the county. 2-0 Northrop heading to 0-2 Wayne. It's the game of the week here on 1380 The Fan. You can hear it tomorrow night with Brett Rump and Shannon Griffith from Wayne Stadium. And the head coach of the Northrop Bruins is Coach Jason Doerffler. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And, through the first couple minutes, it sounds like a good show, right? And you haven't heard the whole thing, so you don't know.
Absolutely.
See? Yeah, we'll roll with it.
You guys got it going.
Coach, hey, congratulations. Back-to-back wins to start the season. The win at Homestead week 1, then you knock off Southside last week. Through 2 games, I mean, everybody's talking about the Northrop Bruins, but as the head coach, how do you feel your team has performed through the first 2 weeks of the season?
Yeah. I mean, we're happy to be where we're at, but we also realize we haven't played, a complete game yet, and if we want to achieve some of the things we want to achieve this season, we're going to have to get better. And that's been the focus. And to be honest with you, that's the focus, whether we win or lose. We just got to keep improving and getting better and playing, some of our best football come November when the games really count.
Coach, we talked so much about Demarius Cohen preseason through the first 2 weeks of the season. He's almost 500 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns already. What puts him apart from a lot of other running backs in the area?
Yeah, I mean, he is obviously a special talent, but he is also a great person, and he's a great teammate, and he's playing behind a very experienced offensive line. We returned our top 7 offensive linemen from last year, and whenever you get a position group with that kind of experience in our conference, you got to utilize it. And you couple that with Demarius and his running ability and his unselfishness, to be quite honest with you, and it makes for a special special unit, and we've had some success running the football so far, and we know we have to use that and develop other areas of our offense, because that's going to be the primary focus when playing us, is to stop Demarius and our run game.
I have to feel as a football coach, when you have questions up front along the offensive line, that can be the most stressful thing, keep you up at night. How gratifying was it to enter a season saying, hey, our offensive line, it's going to be pretty solid. We can work with this.
Yep, absolutely. And I know a lot of people get caught up with who has, this quarterback or this receiver and this or that. But, in reality, especially here at the high school level, football is won, in the trenches. And, you win with great offensive line play, and that's been our case the first 2 weeks. And, we've also not turned it over. But you are correct in saying, there's a lot of comfort there, because we've had teams here in the past where, we could throw the ball, but we've struggled to run the ball effectively. And it's a lot more comforting when we can say, well, we can always run this play and we can gain a few yards, as opposed to saying, I hope we gain a few yards. But it's definitely a thing that we're going to use all year long, is our offensive line.
Coach, you had Dylan Hoot a year ago at the quarterback spot. Now you have another senior in that spot in Kareem Freeman. And, you've relied so much on the run game through the first 2 weeks of the season. You're surely going to need to win some games vertically coming forward. How do you feel about Kareem's development, and what do you want to see out of him going forward?
Yeah, we've kind of challenged our quarterbacks and our receivers this week, saying, in order for us to reach some of the goals that we have, we're going to have to be more efficient through the air. And they've had a great week of practice. And, I think it's a testament to Kareem and his mentality, his leadership. And he definitely knows, he needs to improve. And he's kind of taken that upon himself and put a lot of time in to become a better passer. And in fairness to him, he's never played quarterback until he was a sophomore in high school. We had a need there, and he kind of moved there. And he's done a great job last year for our JV team, and then he stepped up here and led us to 2 victories.
Coach, transitioning to the defensive side of the football, heard a funny story about one of your freshmen, Jelante Hinton, who's really been a standout for you through the first 2 weeks of the season. A kid that, from what I understand, showed up in July. Nobody really knew who he was. For a while, the coaches thought he was a junior. He's just a freshman. A little bit about this kid that's made an impact for you.
Yeah. Now, that might be true of some of our assistant coaches, but I
you knew what was going on, huh?
Yeah, he's a Shawnee Brave, and came to our camps, coming up through his elementary, middle school days, and he's another great kid for us, and he's quiet kid, but he just goes about his business, and he's had a great start to the season, and it's kind of funny because I almost feel bad for him, because he's also a great runner, and he's a great running back at his size, and he wants to run the ball so bad, but he's played so well at defensive end that and we haven't been able to get him into any JV or freshman games running the ball, but eventually someday he might also be able to run the ball for us. So he's a great addition to our program, and just another great kid that we're glad that he is part of us.
Another young kid that's made an impact for you on the back end, C.J. Davis, a couple interceptions through the first couple games. This is another youngster that you've had to count on early on, and he's performed for you.
Absolutely. C.J. is probably one of the more instinctive players we've had here at Northrop. He does things that you don't have, that aren't coached. He picks up on tendencies, and he just gains a half step here or half step there, and the interception he had in week 1 was huge, and he also had another big one last week against Southside. So, it's nice, and kind of going back to our O-line comment, it's comforting to have somebody in the back end like that can see stuff and pick up stuff, and, it has those instincts, because a lot of those can't be taught. They're just natural for him, and he's played a lot of sports and competed in a lot of different things, and it's good to see him have success at the varsity level.
All right, Coach, you head to Wayne Stadium tomorrow night to take on the Generals, and a lot of people already want to pencil you in at 3-0, but Sherwood Haydock has had this team improving through the first couple weeks. They get Eben Person back in that secondary tomorrow. Sean Collins is an electrifying player on offense. What do you guys need to be ready for at Wayne tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think you just mentioned it. I mean, we have loads of respect for Wayne and their talent. And you mentioned Coach Haydock. He's taken 3 teams to the state championship, so I think he knows what he's doing, and they're going to be fine. And you watch them on film, and we even had a little jamboree with them. And I mean, they have guys that break 80-yard runs just like that, and gang tackling and pursuit to the ball, and really, playing tremendously hard is going to focus for us. And we're not caught up in records. And I think the message to our kids immediately on Monday was, we didn't come out and say it, but we kind of treated it as if we are the underdog in this game. I mean, Wayne is extremely talented, and we have to be ready to go. And we're going to have to play a great football game to come out on top on Friday night.
Good stuff, Coach. All right, appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Congratulations on the 2-0 start, but I know all attention is on the Wayne Generals tomorrow. That'll be the game of the week here on 1380 The Fan, man. Looking forward to it.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's Coach Jason Doerffler, Northrop Bruins, joining us here on the phone line. And his team 2-0, looking for their first 3-0 start since 1983, John. That's been a long time. If you're counting at home, that's 37 years since the last time the Northrop Bruins started 3-0. So it's been a while.
Yeah, it has.
Been a while.
Wow.
So, we'll see if Northrop can get it done at Wayne Stadium tomorrow night. Wayne Generals 0-2, but have a lot of talent on that squad. They're not going to be down for too long. That's going to do it for us here. Thank you to Coach Jason Doerffler for joining us, Coach Doug Dinan, Carroll Chargers, Casey Kolkman, Heritage Patriots, and we kicked it off with the Superior Vance, Brice Vance from KPC News joined us. Hopefully he'll join us each and every week at 6 o'clock to break things down. That's going to do it for us. Week 3 of the High School Coaches Show is in the books. Tomorrow night, Brett Rump, Shannon Griffith from Wayne Stadium, Northrop and Wayne, 7 o'clock kickoff right here on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM. I'm Justin Kenny for John Graham. We'll talk to you next Thursday, 6 o'clock. This has been the High School Coaches Show, 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM.
Podcasts by Federated Media. Podcasts by Federated Media.